Welcome, everybody, to the Three Gun Show. I'm your host, Dave Hartman. This is episode 318. We have a special guest on this episode here, Matt Hopkins. Matt Hopkins is a USPSA shooter. He's also the Area 3 director. And Matt has decided that he wants to run for USPSA President. And kind of an interesting time to do it because the previous president was removed. And there has been no president for several months now, and the bylaws have changed. So it's kind of a tumultuous time, an interesting time. It's an interesting time in USPSA history. And Matt and I get into all that. We talk about the current state of USPSA, and then we talk about his platform. This was a recommendation. You'll hear me in the podcast mention this a couple times. This was a recommendation by a listener, and I want to thank that listener for recommending Matt, because I had a great time talking to Matt. I really think he's a genuine person from our talk here. And I think he's got a lot of good ideas for the USPSA organization. And before you think, well, this doesn't appeal to me because I'm a three-gunner, it does actually. There's a lot of multi-gun plans that you'll hear. Matt's got a 6-point plan. We're point number 6, multi-gun. But I think all the other stuff applies to us as well because, hey, we all like shooting stuff, right? And a lot of us are crossover USPSA shooters. So check this out. Make your decision on your own. I'm not telling you which way to vote or not to vote or anything like that. And if there's other people out there that are running for president, would love to hear from them as well. But really enjoyed this conversation with Matt, and I hope you do too. Before we get into the show, like and subscribe to this show if you're watching it on the YouTubes, or if you're on your favorite podcast player, make sure you see that you're subscribed there, and tell a friend. If you got a buddy that shoots USPSA, or if you got a buddy that is new to three gun and wants to hear more about the opportunities out there, share this show. Help us grow. Help the Three Gun Show grow. And for those that do, I appreciate you. And now, enjoy this episode with Matt Hopkins. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, man. It is great to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So a mutual friend of ours, John Morgan, reached out and he's like, hey, Matt Hopkins is running for USPSA president. You got to have him on the show because some of the stuff in his platform is pretty interesting. And he sent me a copy of that as well, and I'm looking at it here, and it is interesting. So I'm happy to have you on, happy to discuss it. But this is your first time on the show, so want to introduce you to the audience, and people can get to know who you are as a shooter. So Matt, what's your story, man? When did you get into competition shooting and stuff like that?
I feel like I've actually talked to you quite a bit because I listen to the podcast whenever something. I try to listen to every time, but you know how that works.
Yeah,
I try
for
to,
sure.
I don't hit all of them, but I hit most of them. So it feels like I've met you and talked to you for quite a bit already. So, so I shot some pistols with my dad and went hunting with my dad when I was in school. After I left the house, went to school, like secondary school, college, technical school. I didn't really touch a gun or anything until I got out of school and then was working down in Tulsa. And at that point, my apartment got broke into. So I went out and bought a handgun for the first time. And that was in 2007. So after I bought that handgun, I bought a safe for it, mounted it in a closet in my house. And then I got to thinking, like, can I actually use this for what I wanted to use it for, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I decided I wasn't as probably as proficient with it as that I need to be. So I sought out some local training classes from some instructors. So I went to a school, TDSA Tulsa, got some very, very, very basic, like, this is how you hold a handgun. This is the muzzle of it. This is the breech, like the front sight, rear sight. They went through everything like that and showed me that on a basic introduction to handgun class. I got pretty hooked on that. They did a little live fire at the end of it. And then I basically said, I have to do more of this. And I asked them when their next training class was. they're like, oh, that's sold out, but we have one in a month or two. So I signed up for that and took that. And that was a full 2-day handgun class where they taught us how to pull the trigger, how to draw, how to do a reload, everything like that. So the basic manipulations on that.
Nice. So
and then at that point, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we kind of got into shooting sort of the same way. So luckily my house wasn't broken into, but I actually lived with a couple people who never locked the door. And my room was like right at the bottom of the stairs from one of the entrances. So I decided to get a shotgun. And then,
oh yeah,
yeah, sort of different ways, right? But then I was like, exact same thought as you. Was like, well, can I use this? And then that's when I sought out the range. Interesting.
Yeah. So after this handgun class, they had this little competition at the very end of it. So they put up, it was basically like an El Pres drill without the turn. So you had to like draw your handgun, shoot 2 on these metal BC zone targets, do a reload, and then shoot 2 more. So at the end of the class, I don't know if I was the most improved. I went in there with some ability because I've shot a handgun before and took the previous class, but they stayed around for a little while, and the instructors were having fun afterward playing like little games against each other. And then I asked them kind of what they were doing and what they were practicing for, because I saw some really fancy belts and guns and stuff on some of the instructors. Not something that you would see in a gun shop or anything at that time, unless it was really specialized. And they told me they shoot competitions, so I kind of asked more about that and pressed them on that. And then they invited me out to a competition, like I think it was the next weekend or the weekend after that. And then I went out and basically took the same gear I had in the class and shot the first competition, and I was hooked at that point. So then I got a USPSA membership, attended a level 2 match in North Texas at Double Tap Ranch, got classified, and then took first C-class production at that match. So that was all within probably the first 6 months of me owning a handgun.
Wow. So had you had any sort of like competitive background? Did you play any like high school sports or anything like that? Or did this just awaken some sort of desire in you?
I did play high school sports, but I wasn't competitive at it. I played golf in high school, but I was not competitive anywhere near the level I was at that.
Yeah, shooting's like golf, right? Like you go around from stage to stage, hole to hole, walk around with a squad of guys.
Yep.
I did
actually computer gaming for a while. When I was working on cars in Tulsa, that was my main hobby. I would computer game after work and before work, and everything revolved around that until I bought the gun and learned about competition shooting.
And just kind of switched over from there?
I did both for a while, and it really transitioned over to full-time competition shooting, less gaming in the last 5 or so years. So I hardly game anymore. So that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And so you said you started shooting production. Have you stayed there, or what do you shoot now?
So I've shot, I believe I'm classified in all the non-revolver division. So that sounds bad, right?
It does. And is there more than one revolver division?
No.
Oh, okay. So everything but revolver then.
Yeah.
Anything with a magazine.
Yep, exactly. I've only had production-ish guns. I've never had open guns, or I have a PCC that I converted back into a pistol during the pandemic just because I figured I needed a backpack gun. Because you never know, right?
Right, of course.
So I've shot PCC some. Mainly, my 2 main divisions are production and carry optics.
Gotcha. Yeah, carry optics has had like a massive explosion in the last, I don't know if I want to say a year or 2 years, maybe. So probably since 2019, it just seems to be like exploding. So as a guy who's on the inside who's shooting that, what do you attribute that to?
So I think the main factors are that is red dots are much easier to shoot for let me see how to say this. It's easier to pick up a red dot and shoot at a higher level than pick up iron sights and shoot at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Or the red dot is a multiplier that multiplies it higher than what you would get with iron sights.
I think the learning curve is smoother, shorter.
I think the learning curve is smoother for sure. I think the high capacity magazines also, so they have 140 millimeter magazine limit, or 141 for USPSA. I think that's a contributing factor, and I think 9 millimeter minor is also a contributing factor. So you could go and buy ammo off the shelf and shoot it and be 100% competitive with everybody else out there. You don't have to load a special round, a special ammo, or anything to make a special power factor.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's one of the reasons I kind of veered away from. Well, I guess the podcast specifically, but another contributing factor is one of the reasons I veered away from USPSA initially when I got into competition shooting was that now I've got to go buy a reloader. Like at the time, I didn't know that you could actually buy minor power factor ammo or major power factor ammo. I thought you had to load it all your own because I just hung out with a bunch of old dudes that cast their own bullets out of stuff they found on the ground and things like that. So
funny.
Yeah. So that part of it was kind of intimidating. That's interesting that you mentioned that. Cause yeah, it is kind of a lot of, although it seems like everything moves really slow in the firearms industry, we have made a lot of strides in like the last 10 years that I've been shooting. I mean, for example, like Federal, they sell, what is the Syntec or something like that? Like that's a major brand that sells a ammo that is ostensibly competition ready right out of the box.
Yeah, an interesting thing on that, most ammo companies load to a pressure, and that's loaded to a power factor. So they still fit that load within the pressure specs of the round, but they loaded it specifically to meet power factor. Yeah, and no one else has ever done anything like that before.
Well, and power factor is something that is very specific to the game that we play, right? The USPSA crowd. It's not everywhere else goes by SAMI spec, right? Which is pressure.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. So to have like a major manufacturer providing ammo like that is a big deal. But going back to what you said about the minor power factor ammo, makes a lot of sense. Especially considering like FBI, most police agencies and everything like that are moving back to 9 millimeter. Whereas,
yeah, that's one thing I was going to talk about. I think with the pandemic and the Care Optics was getting steam before that, but when the pandemic happened and all the ammo just disappeared instantly, all ammo manufacturers were only making 9 millimeter and 223. Mm-hmm. No one else was making any 40 or anything like that, or at very low volume. So 9 millimeter 115 grain was basically all you could get for almost a year, I think. And that there was nothing on the shelf, and if you found anything, it would be that 9 millimeter.
Yeah,
I think that's a contributing factor also.
So one of the conversations that we're having in three gun circles a lot lately is where the F is 12 gauge. And I think you're right. Like people just went over to making, 9 and 223. And man, it's hard to find just plain old bird shot for steel targets out there.
Is that specific or like everybody's out of everything?
So I live in Cheyenne, which is, 60,000 people. It's a small town. But there's probably like 5 or 6 places to physically purchase ammo. And one you just wouldn't go to because they're dicks. And so of the remaining few places, no 12 gauge birdshot. I mean, they'll have like the random duck loads or turkey loads or things like that. And then even after a while, like 20 gauge disappeared. And for a while, there was like absolutely no shotgun ammo in the entire town. And typically I would, go buy cases at a time at, Sportsman's Warehouse or Murdoch's or something like that. And it was no big deal. Now from what I do, I talk to people all over the country, and I'm hearing the same. I was hearing the same things like 6 months ago. It's starting to come back to where people can buy ammo straight over I guess specifically 12 gauge bird shot straight over the counter, and the restrictions are gone, so people are able to buy cases and stuff. But for the guys that shoot like box fed shotguns, they need specific stuff, which generally is like Winchester double A's or something similar to that. But I've gotten to the point where, I prefer to shoot double A's because they load good in the shotgun, or they load well in a tube fed shotgun. I'll prefer to shoot that in like a major match where something is on the line. But at this point, it's like, I don't care. Whatever I can find, I'll shoot it, and haven't been able to find much.
Nice. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I would never thought 12 gauge bird shot would be hard to find.
Of all things, right? Like you'd expect that would be there forever.
22 is probably okay now though, right?
Compared
to the last time this happened.
So this is way better. So yeah, you went through the Sandy Hook drought the same way I did, because I got started in like 2008, and then I think I shot my first competition in 2011. So I was a little bit behind you there. But yeah, so I went through that drought as well, and there was like absolutely, for people who weren't there was absolutely no 22 to be found. And now we're still in the middle of, I guess, ostensibly the pandemic, and I can walk into Murdoch's or Sportsman's Warehouse and buy 22 off the counter, and there's no limits or anything like that as far as number of boxes you want to buy.
Yep, that's true.
Where I remember wasn't it like 5 years until you saw 22 on the shelf after the
it was 2012, I believe.
Yeah. And then I want to say
like December 2012. And then I think it was a minimum of 2 years.
2 years.
It was during Trump's. So yeah, 2016 then, right?
Yeah. So that'd have been 4 years later. So when you finally saw 22, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. And they were making millions of rounds a day.
Yeah, and they just couldn't. Oh man, can you imagine what the estate sales are going to be like in 10 years? Just gobs and buckets of 22 everywhere.
You're not going to be able to have a spot for it all. Yeah, it's going to be so crazy.
Yeah, I think people are sitting on a ton of that stuff for sure. Well, so Matt, when you finally got to shooting USPSA, only 6 months into your shooting career, you got hooked, and which brings us to, I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but sure. I want to talk about our main topic tonight. Brings us into where you're at now. So you're on the board of directors for USPSA, right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm the Area 3 director right now.
Gotcha. What made you decide that you wanted to get involved on a national level rather than helping set up matches at your club, shoot matches, travel the country, all that good stuff?
I think it was, if I boil it down to one contributing factor that happened, I think it was the direction the organization was going. And that was away from the members and then more towards looking at how much money the organization makes or how much money they can save. And that didn't sit really well with me. So I wanted to get on the board and change that.
If I'm not mistaken, USPSA is a nonprofit, right?
That is correct, yes.
So how then does making money turn into like a primary objective for a nonprofit organization?
So, and it's basically on the services that are provided. So if you have, real simple example is you have these two choices for a range you can use. One charges X and then one charges $10,000 less than that, or something like that. And you choose the one that's $10,000 less, but it doesn't have all the infrastructure in place or the minimum requirements that are needed to host a match there, and yet you still chose that place. That's the kind of decisions that I'm against.
Got it. Okay, so are we talking like nationals matches? Was there?
Yeah. The organization hosted matches.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yep. So just for your perspective, like my questions are coming from like an area of complete ignorance. Like sure. I really don't know anything that's gone on. I'm trying to not be specific and call out
specific ranges on this. So.
Oh, no problem. And that's fine. And I don't expect you to anyway. I just want you to know I'm like not trying to hang air or anything. It's just I truly don't know. All the USPSA news I get is from like meme accounts on Instagram. So, that's
the best way to hear it, right?
Well, as far as I can tell, it's like the national news. Russell Brand and Joe Rogan are the two leading commentators in the world right now. Yeah, it's interesting times for sure. Well, I mean, it's interesting that you talk about the power struggle, because that's like what I see in national politics as well. It's like, I've always felt the federal government didn't really have my my well-being in mind, but in the last 2 years, they've just kind of dropped the veil and really shown that side of it. And I from the meme accounts, it does seem like the feedback that a lot of the USPSA members and then the actual users, right? So the active members, the people that are going and shooting matches and stuff like that, like their concerns are either not being heard, or they're being told to shut up and fall in line, or there's weird.
I think that's a lot of it. There's 35,000 members in USPSA. Half of those have not even shot a match in the last 12 months. So we have roughly 17,500 members that are active. And by active, I mean actually shot a match. If we drill down further to that, you can slice it down to there's probably 2,000 people in USPSA that actually know what's going on at any one time. The other people come out, they shoot their local match, they help with stage setup, they RO on the squads. They're just doing it as a pure hobby to get out of the house, and they don't care if USPSA has the 8 divisions or if they have 80 divisions, or if the rules about targets change or anything like that. They just want to come out and do an activity on the weekend. Is that similar in 3-gun, you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I just made a note here that is exactly like 3-gun. I think you've got us nailed, obviously, on the membership. And of course, we don't have like an overarching organization, so it's really hard to tell. The best numbers we can get are from practice score, but we figure there's, between years, there's probably like 10 to 13,000 active 3-gun shooters that have shot a 3-gun match or a match listed as 3-gun in practice score. And of those, we figure, just talking with several groups that I talk to, match directors and stuff like that, we figure there's probably anywhere from like 1,700 to 2,200 real active 3-gun shooters that would shoot on a national level.
Yeah, and those competitors are traveling around shooting different matches. They're probably helping with a local club setting up stages or running matches that way as a match director, right?
Yeah. Yeah, those are match directors. Those are people shooting, some of the larger matches like USPSA Multi-Gun Nationals when it occurs, Texas 3-gun, Wisconsin 3-gun, Tri-gun, stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, so it's pretty similar numbers across everything so far, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that the people that are voicing their opinions online right now, or even sending in comments, which the comments are about the bylaw changes that USPSA made, the board of directors made to the bylaws. Now that was passed, and so those are in place. The comments that were sent in were overwhelmingly against the changes that the board made, or the board proposed and then voted on and passed, or they were in favor of having the special election before the changes happened. So, not to go down that rabbit hole, but the board voted and passed some changes with the way the presidency is after previously changing it back in 2016 when the past president was in office. So they're going back to a part-time president for USPSA and a hired managing director.
Yeah, so that part I personally don't understand. So they want to now make like the president like a ornamental thing, only like a figurehead kind of thing. And then there's someone that's paid to do the board's, to do what the board says. They answer to the board. They don't answer to the members behind the scene. That person, that managing partner or managing director, is that what you said?
Yeah, managing director, that is the case. So the easy way to say this, the president is in charge of the sport and the managing director is in charge of the business side of USPSA. So president is the nationally elected representative of the members. They are in charge of how nationals are put on the ground and full and final authority on that. They called it out as a part-time position. They're the representative. They're the regional director for IPSC for the U.S. region. I think there's a couple other. They're on the board of directors, so they make up the 9th board member from all the other area. The managing director is in charge of all the employees at USPSA. So they have 13 employees right now. That person would be in charge of all the employees. So the directors would report to the managing director, and then the employees under the directors, which I believe there's 4 right now, directors, and then all the employees would report under them. So
I guess in principle that makes sense, but then them not being accountable to the membership, the managing director not being accountable to the membership is kind of suspect. And then why make the president a part-time position if you're going to add, if you're going to split the rules or the roles and then add another salary, like that's kind of weird. That seems a little odd.
I was actually against those changes and I voted no on them along with Area 4 Director Chad Stanton. But the other 7 members of the board voted yes. So all those changes passed.
Mm-hmm. And okay, let me back up a little bit. So the board voted to remove the previous president, and then which that by USPSA law bylaws, whatever.
Yes.
Triggers a special election, and then
the
board pushed the special election. Was it 4 months, 5 months, something like that, to get their bylaw changes passed, and then now there's going to be a special election. So they changed the laws, or they changed the bylaws, and they changed the role of the president before the special election. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I got the story correct.
Yeah. They removed the president in August. The bylaws were voted in January, and then the special election timeline was set in January. So 6 months after the previous president was removed. The new timeline that looks like voting, well, we can go into that right now, I guess.
Sure.
If we talk about the new special election that's coming up.
Yeah. So you're running for president, which is one of the reasons that you're on the show. The show here is, our mutual friend John Morgan sent me your platform. I thought it was super interesting, and then I wanted to hear the backstory. Wanted to kind of cover like the current state of USPSA, and then I wanted to give you a voice to talk about your platform. But first, I got to ask before we get into that, like knowing what we just talked about, like why do you want to be the president? What makes you still want to run for that?
That's a question I've got asked kind of frequently now that it's been changed, and the president still is the national representative of the membership. So they represent the members nationwide, and they would answer to all the members of USPSA, not just regional elected members, like for the other area directors. I believe that role still has a very significant part to play in USPSA. They're in charge of nationals, which is one of the topics we can discuss specifically on my platform later.
Sure.
Because it's actually got some discussion going out there now. And then just on the USPSA side, it's still a very big role, and that person is going to be the main point of contact for the board and to bring up anything that trends and reports and say, I know there's conversations right now. A big one I know that you guys are having also in 3 Gun is allowing slide mounted dots on other guns besides the current carry optics guns. So 2011s mainly, right?
Well, yes, and the basically the only division where you can have a dot on your pistol right now is, or excuse me, on any other gun other than your rifle is open division. And technology has seemed to advance quite a bit. And, you know, as I was talking to you about before this, we've seen this huge explosion in carry optics. So why not give an opportunity for people to bring those carry optics pistols over to shoot 3-gun? So my proposal, just, you know, driving down the road with a buddy of mine, we sat and thought, why don't we change the rules of TAC Ops to be more modern and to have red dots on pistols basically look like, you know, carry optics pistols. And then we looked around and all the people that we shoot national matches with have 2011s. So we kind of had to make a concession that way. So I don't know what the correct answer is, but there is definitely a debate of like, do 2011s have go under the red dot sort of provision? There's currently nothing in IPSC or USPSA for that except open division. So yeah, right. there is a little bit of a debate there for sure.
So I think the first thing is my philosophy behind divisions. If something comes out and we don't have a division for it, we need to probably have a division where that gun would fit in. First and foremost, we have to have something where anybody could come out and play the game with whatever gun they have and have a spot for that. I believe all the divisions cover that now because open is so open. You could shoot basically anything in there. Now, is it ideal? No. But they could come out, experience the game and the sport, and then actually see if they want to buy something specific for it or just come out and have fun as a hobby.
Yeah, I agree on that. And I will say, like, my first experience with USPSA, I was shooting just a bone stock Glock 17, and I refused to download my mags. So I shot a limited minor, and then they explained the scoring to me after we shot the match. And sure. That's when I learned to hate minor major power factor scoring. But yeah, I totally agree on that. And here's the thing. One thing I see a lot is I've helped out a lot of local matches all over the country in one way or another. And I see a lot of first timers coming in, their gear doesn't meet a specific division, and then they get frumpy about going and shooting an open. Well, right. Listen, buddy, you were going to get your ass kicked anyway. Trust me. I've been there.
It doesn't matter what division they go in.
No,
first time match,
it really doesn't.
Get through it, experience it.
But I don't know if it's an ego thing or what. So, you know, maybe there's an opportunity for like a newbie division on the club level or something where, you know, they're I don't know, all lumped in and scored against each other or something like that, and then you have a match to figure it out or whatever. But I don't know. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There does need to be a place for everyone to go, and I don't personally see a problem with that place being open, other than, you know, someone's going to get their feelings hurt. But man, whole world hurts your feelings, to be honest.
Yeah, it for sure does. And so let me expand. So once we have a spot for everything to go in, which we do now, it's not ideal, but we have it. Then my philosophy behind divisions is participation and pillars of the divisions that separate them from other divisions. So if we talk about single stack, obviously it's 1911 style single stack guns. Compare, and revolvers. Where open is basically anything. PCC is what it is. Carry optics, production. We got limited 10 is where it kind of gets a little messy, and where it's kind of where the lines are getting a little more blurred than they probably should. And this is where I would want to evaluate. Well, first we need to decide if a division is something that it is, does it stay that way forever until it just no longer gets participation.
Dude, we're having that same conversation.
Yeah, I think you talked about this also. So I'll give you credit for this because I heard it from you. So it should production be what it is, and then it just goes on as production forever. And if no one shoots it, it just dies out.
Mm-hmm.
And should we have a limited minor division come in where you can shoot your 9mm high capacity Palmer frame? What are they usually 15 round, I guess, for G19s, and that size is the most popular handgun out there right now.
Yeah.
Should we create a division for that? And I believe you were saying something about should TAC Ops be modified to what's currently tactical, right?
Yeah, and so that's honestly where I stand is TAC Ops should be, modified to the current state of the art, and then limited should be even more limited. Like for some reason we allowed the Magpul D60 into all divisions, and I love Magpul more than anyone. I got a Magpul wallet in my pocket, for God's sake. But the D60 does not belong in limited, and for me to have to explain that to someone makes my brain hurt. It's like that should be self-evident.
No, I think it's good. I think you should have principles of the division. So limited sounds like stuff should be limited, like mag capacity, sighting systems on guns, optics probably on guns. What's limited on that?
I do like the idea of principles of divisions. The principles of divisions, I think, is a great way to state it, or the pillars of divisions, whatever you want to call it. I like that idea, and if you establish something like that, for example, in the USPSA divisions, then any new technology that you come out with can be judged against those principles, right?
Yep, for sure.
I like that. That's awesome.
And then you can reevaluate the pillars of those divisions. So something that is a long ways out right now, but at some point 40 will be very hard to find and will be only valid for our game at some point in the future. I don't know if that's 10 years or 50 years. It's kind of like 38 Super, right?
Yeah.
It's basically only valid for high-end 1911s and USPSA Open Division.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the caliber doesn't exist.
Yeah, just this weekend, I was talking to a friend that's having trouble finding 38 Super. And, of course, after we were done making fun of him for buying a 2011 in 38 Super, we, kind of felt sorry for him. But, yeah, it's absolutely true. And so my personal opinion, as you've already heard, like I'm happy to get rid of 40. I don't understand the major and minor power factor. I imagine back in the day there was some curmudgeon-y dude that was like, oh, we don't want those pea shooters here. You can't have a Browning high power. This is 1911 territory, and then that's where it came from. But just guessing. But yeah, I think the time has long since passed to get rid of that nonsense.
I think the conversation should be had at some point. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody's ready to have it now. And the people that I've talked to about this very briefly is you can't do it overnight. You have to have a very detailed plan that in my mind has to happen and say in 5 years for like major is not going to exist in limited. And then year 1, we do this, year 2, we do this, year 3, 4, and 5, and then have a roadmap to that. Because at that point, people will know that the gun, if they're going to buy a brand new 40 caliber limited gun, it's going to be obsolete in a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And that's probably one of the, so in the talks that we've been having about, creating or updating 3-gun divisions or creating new divisions, that's probably the best thing that's come up is like, hey, everybody's got a 2011 with iron sights right now. What do you do? Tell them that they can't shoot it? No. And I also don't think we should change all the rules tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, that's a really good point is having like a rollout and then that way people can make educated choices on gear purchases and things like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a complaint that I've seen online from a lot of USPSA shooters is that there have been rapid rule changes that are basically rolled out fast without I guess I don't know. They're basically sprung upon the membership to say it bluntly.
There was no public discussion or even putting it out to the members beforehand before something was changed. And that was an issue in the past. And one of the things that was done right in the bylaw changes put a solid timeline and steps in place that those changes only happen once a year. They're put out to the membership for a certain amount of time beforehand, and they don't go into effect until a certain time after the members have provided feedback or were able to provide feedback, and then the board votes on it. So basically the timeline is it starts in August. The Rules Committee gets the changes to competitor equipment to the board. The board's like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Then they put it out to the membership. Membership has 60 days to comment on it and send back to the area directors. Then the area directors have like 30 days to have a meeting and go over the feedback and then actually vote on it. And then it actually doesn't even go into place until January 31st.
That actually makes a lot of sense. And that seems like plenty enough time to get people's responses in. Now, is there any sort of assurance that the board of directors has to actually hear the comments from the membership? It seems like that's kind of a problem that the members are dealing with right now.
There's nothing that says that they have to actually take the members' comments in place, like take them in and actually read them or do anything with them. The only thing in place is that it'll be put out in the minutes of the meeting, and then nothing can happen until that 60-day period after that.
Okay.
I believe on December. So it's put out to the members like in maybe October 1st, and it's actually brought back to the board for a vote in December. But I do know there's some IT stuff going on that will make all this and member feedback way easier. And now if the board chooses to release that stuff like IDPA did with their survey system that they had just recently, that would be up to the board to do. And I'm in favor of publishing all the results and anything like that to the members so they could see what the actual members' feedback was.
Yeah, it seems like if it's a member organization, then it seems self-evident that you should be all transparent and everyone should see it, right? Seems simple.
Yes, 100%.
In fact, that is that's a good transition there. That's the first thing on your platform here is transparency, and you have some great ideas involved in that, including the IT thing, IT updates that you're talking about as well.
Yeah. So the first thing on live stream board meetings. This is a pretty controversial one with the board members, and not really controversial or anything from anybody else. I've heard a couple comments saying that it doesn't make sense or what's the reason to do it. It's accountability. And it's so if you choose to go in there and see how your representative, your area director, or your president is voting and talking on stuff, you have access to do that. It's not saying you have to go in there and watch them. Honestly, they've been interesting since I've been on the board. So I came in after the previous president was removed and they were doing all these bylaw changes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was uncommon for how often and how regularly and how long the meetings lasted. I think we'll get to a more like once or twice a month meeting where they last 3 or 4 hours, maybe 3 hours, hopefully. And live streaming those and then putting them on the website should be no issue. We have the technology in place. We could do it. It would just be a click of a button difference than what we're doing now. And it's basically just so if members want to hold their representatives accountable, they can.
It's like C-SPAN.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Our local Kansas City has a channel dedicated to just streaming the city council meetings and any meetings that they have based on the city. So yeah, I never watch it, but I could if I was interested.
It always makes me angry when I watch those. It's like, I can tell you're playing on your iPad, lady. Like, pay attention to that guy.
Yeah. Yep. So that's the first one. Couple more under transparency. I want to create a live stream member meeting, so where the members can just get the state of USPSA. It's not actually voting on changes or anything like that. It would just be like getting updates from the area directors if they want to, getting updates from the committees if there's any updates for those committees at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Having the employee directors give updates to what's going on for their basically silo of the org or what they're responsible for. And the big one on that is giving updated monthly financials to the members to see how the organization's funds are being spent.
Right. That makes sense. Thinking of a positive side effect on that, it could encourage, from the people that are paying attention and actually attending those meetings, it can encourage participation for other things as well. Like if you need contacts at, different ranges for different things and stuff like that, it's a good way to encourage volunteerism as well.
Yeah, I think it's just something that, so my local gun club does this on a monthly basis. They have a monthly board meeting and then they have a monthly member meeting. Different stuff discussed in each. Some stuff transitions over, like the financial stuff goes into greater detail in the board meetings compared to the member meetings, but there's no reason we can't do that with USPSA. Mm-hmm. They have less than 2,000 members, and I'm sure the percentage is pretty close to, I doubt it's 50% ever go out, like never go out there just because it's on a local level. But I bet there's a certain number of members that just never actually go to that gun club. They just continue their membership to say they're members or just to support the range.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the same thing I've found with other gun clubs around around there that I've been involved with as well.
And then you get the 5% that actually go out there on a daily, weekly basis.
Yeah, and then the 3% that are actually active and helping and are willing to pick up a shovel when it needs to be done and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. Yep. Or pick up trash that the previous person just left on the target or just blew off or whatever. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yep.
Yep. And I assume that would take a little figuring out. Like those would not be smooth to start with just because they're not currently being done. There's annual meetings in place with the nationals where those have actually been live streamed this last October. So those were put up. But I like to see a monthly thing. And then if there's a nationals match that month, that could take place in person and live stream of the actual member meeting. So with 6 national matches, you'd have 6 months that are virtual and then 6 in-person ones. So that's how I would see it with this year.
Got it. All right. Well, so your next platform point is integrity, and you've got several things under there, and it seems like a lot of these are overlapping as well, which is getting more member feedback. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is to create a survey system on the USPSA website. Now, does the USPSA currently do any sort of surveys on their matches after they happen?
No, there's none that are done right now.
Interesting. I can think of a couple 3-gun matches that do them, and they're the most successful ones, and they have repeat customers, and they sell out.
Yeah, and it's something we're seeing more in the USPSA side. But how else would you get feedback? You'd listen to podcasts, you'd see posts on the Enos forum, which might not be there ever again, or it came back. I'm not real sure. But you have no way to see how you're actually doing with the match and how your customers like experience the match. Were they happy with the parking? Were they happy with the, we'll say, porta potty situation, which we had an issue with?
I heard about that. Someone doesn't use the bathroom, alarming them out.
It was just the number that were on the range, honestly, and that was just something that got overlooked. It got fixed for the next national matches, so
it happens. And I've been to matches that have that exact same problem. When you think like, oh, this is your third one, you should have it figured out by now. But shit happens to use a bad terminology for that specific situation, but I totally understand it. But the I guess the willingness to take responsibility and fix it going forward is the thing that everybody cares about. And like you said, when you hear about it on Eno's forum or a podcast or something, is it someone that's just complaining, or is that really how people feel? And it reminds me of the case that they always told us about in every marketing class I had since I was in high school, and that was the Detroit what's called brass looking down at their big buildings and saying, well, everyone here drives American cars, and they just didn't notice the Japanese cars coming. So it's when you surround yourself with people that are not willing to tell you the truth, you don't get the truth. So the survey is an excellent way to get that.
And honestly, that would take some learning curve also, and it wouldn't be perfect out of the gate, but it's something we can start compiling, and we can actually present that to the board as I hate this. I hate KPIs. I hate that like so much. It's become the new standard of, I don't know, of business and how people talk in business. But it is something you can measure and see how good nationals are. So, and right now there's no system in place to do that. And DIT is working on that within USPSA. I don't know the current timeline, but it is one of his goals for the year 2022. And I think you could accelerate that by putting some resources behind it. So you could actually make that happen a lot sooner. And in the meantime, there's platforms out there where you can get feedback from members, like the Survey Monkey that Area 8 sends out. We could easily craft 10 questions, send out to all the people the day after the match happens, and see what the feedback was. And then compile them in Excel and put a report together and report that to the board. That wouldn't take much effort at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy money. Like that's exactly what I help with a run and gun match in Colorado, and that's exactly the format that we used was Survey Monkey.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes free depending on how many users you have, right?
Yeah, and the match that we had was big enough that we had to pay for it, but I don't know. I think I used it under the 3 Gun Shows account, so it wasn't even a big deal. But yeah, if it's small enough, then yeah, you can actually do it for free.
Yep. I think nationals would blow that out, but that's something that should be easily within to be able to be put into the budget for that. No problem. Yeah. Until it's actually put on the USPSA website, then it's no cost except for hosting.
Right, for sure. Well, so there's another thing under integrity here that you have listed that I'm so surprised that doesn't actually exist. And that is work with local match directors to develop and publish a local club guide and best practices resource to help with club setup. That super surprises me. And I've found that in my travels as a 3-gun competitor that the best 3-gun matches are put on by shooters. And it's people that go to other matches and see the best practices and like, oh, that was clever. We should do that, that kind of thing. And so the fact that there's not like a USPSA best practices manual or guide for local match directors is like surprising to me.
So I think there's something called a club manual that's out there that hasn't been updated in quite a long time. What I envisioned for this was twofold: help existing clubs that are out there to make a better experience for the shooters, the people that come out and actually attend their events. And then also another one for if someone is an area where they have a match and then they have a range that is able to host matches, you can have something in there where they have a startup. So this is basically like three ways we see clubs that are set up that are successful. They have a membership fee and then they have reduced rates for the members, and then or they have all the ROs that set up, they get to shoot for free, and just some stuff like that, some guides. And because it's happened in our local area where people start a club up and they're like, well, we don't get any attendance or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we don't have any help setting up. It's like, okay, so this is what we do at our club. Maybe you could try it over there and maybe that'll work. Or maybe you need to do a different setup because your range has different rules about how you do setup, or when you can take the bays over to do setup, or who actually has to be in charge of it. Do they have to be a member of the actual the range dirt and the range that's on the ground? And we have some local clubs that are like that. So you put a couple different scenarios in there, and the reason I said work with local match directors is because what I know in Kansas City will not work or might not work on the East or West Coast, or like what they do in California probably doesn't work here in Kansas City because we don't have the number of people to do setup or anything like that. So you got to get input from everybody, compile it into one, and then put that out so people can actually use it. Right now, that's not being done at all.
Yeah, and you know that the fact that it's not all put together in one place makes everybody have to start from scratch when they're starting a club or taking over a club or something like that. And that makes it really hard. And if you give them a leg up on that, it would be easy. Let me throw another one easier. Let me throw another one at you. When people say that, like, we get people that come, but then they never come back. I've heard that from a lot of match directors, and I'll always ask, did you call them and ask why? And nobody ever does. And
so
I think that second touch point after, they were, inundated with all the rules and the gunfire and picking up and stuff like that. I think that second touch point really helps out to encourage people to come back and shoot their club the club match on a regular basis.
Yep, that's one of the things. Once the survey system is set up on USPSA, I want to roll that out to every match director, so they can get feedback from the people that actually shot the match.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
And see if it was good, bad, what can be improved on, and all that. So,
yeah, and then show the newer people, hey, we do value your opinion. We do want you to come back.
Yep, exactly. Yep,
I like that.
So getting the survey system set up first, and then rolling it out to the national matches would be the number one thing to do. And then once that survey system is set up and robust enough, you can roll that out to the local match directors and let them solicit feedback if people want to about how they're running their matches. And then that would be available to the match directors through the USPSA website. They can click on, hey, we just had a match last Saturday. We got feedback from 12 people and they said this, and this. And should we change or do anything different for the next one?
Yeah.
Or should we just get some more feedback and then maybe formulate a plan of what we actually need to change in the future?
I like that. Well, okay, so the next one immediately after that, we're going to have to skip a few of these, but I didn't want to skip over this one. This is work with stage designers all around the country to develop and publish a stage design and setup resource guide. That would be awesome. Like if you could pull stages from, someone who's killing it in Kansas City to try out at your club match on a week where, shoot, maybe you're the only one that's designing stages and you're busy with, the wife and kids or whatever, but you need stages to get those kind of resources and help from the national club would be really cool.
Yeah. So there's a stage database being developed right now, and it's expected to go live sometime this year, but that's not That's just here's a stage that got approved and set up at a level 2 or higher match. That's basically a state or higher match. So state, area, nationals match. There's going to be a database for that, but this would actually expand on. So if you have walls set up and the fault lines actually touch the walls, what's the best way to do that? Do you hammer the nails into the walls, or do you put the fault lines within the legs of the walls? Stuff like that. And maybe some resources like, this is a good target array, this is a better target array, this is a target array you want to avoid and we don't recommend using. There's some stuff in the rules about that, but if we had some visual references about what's able to be used and what other clubs and other stage designers and match setup people have found in the past, just put that down so people can actually use it and find it. Because right now it's all in people's heads.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so, it's people come and go for various reasons. So once those people are gone, that information and that hard earned information over many years is lost.
Yep.
I like it. All right, Matt. So long-term goals here. You have a section titled long-term goals. What are the long-term goals within the org?
These are things that aren't going to be able to happen within this election term. So there's only going to be about 18 months left in this term for president. None of this stuff can happen in that term. This is just something I'd like to see in the future. So term limits for area director and president. Same issue we have with national politics. People get in there and then just never leave, and you know how that works.
Yeah, I have a rule of thumb, and it's stop voting for old fuckers. And pardon my French, but the reason is that they're not going to be around to see the damage they caused. And when we look at on a national level, and right now we've got a guy with dementia that's in, and they're thinking like, oh, well, maybe next time we'll just run, Hillary Clinton, who's like 2 years younger and probably 3 times as evil. Like, oh, that's great. Like, thanks for giving us these wonderful options. Can we get someone who is like, I don't know, was raised maybe when the 486 computer was out, and they've actually, they've seen the internet before, and they bought a loaf of bread in the past decade. Yeah. So I look at the same way with, not specifically USPSA, because I haven't voted there yet, but with the boards of directors of ranges that I've been at. You get the dude that's old and retired, and he has nothing to do but complain about.
We see it.
You see it every range all around the country, and from an outsider perspective, and again, the memes I'm looking at on the internet, it seems like that's what's currently happening on the board.
Yeah.
My words, not yours.
Yeah. There's been some long-term people on the board, so it's good to get fresh people in and get that to actually turn over. Fresh people bring new ideas. For sure. Yeah. And so, on that note, there's a change to bylaws to have DNROIs to be an elected position. That's another great example, because first of all, I'm surprised to find out that there's only one DNROI. I thought it was a committee. And then there's no sort of consequences for any actions, rulings, whatever. It's just like, just go on down the road. You're our guy. The DNROI reports straight to the board. So and that's not actually changed in the new bylaws. So they will still be reporting to the board. The members have a voice in how rules are interpreted. If they don't like how they're being done, let's just say that, trying to pick a non-specific example, this isn't even come up, so it'll be okay. So if DNRI said, I don't like heads on targets, and just changed the rules and eliminated the headed target.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, DNRI could put that up. It would go to the board. Now, if DNRI had enough friends on the board, it could get passed by a 5-4 vote. So only 5 people would actually need to pass that at this point. So that's an extreme example, not something that's even being talked about. But currently, that could actually be done.
So that's crazy. So 6 people could completely change the direction of a 35,000 person organization with no accountability.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's an extreme example, but it's there. So I think DNRI on an elected basis and have the same term limits as the mentioned above. I don't know if the term limits we could talk about. That's a debate everywhere right now, 2 or 3 or however many terms, probably not more than 3. I think a minimum of 2 because you got to be able to get in there and actually do stuff.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree on that. What is like the length of a term for an area director?
It's 4 years. So area director and president are 4-year terms.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so at least 2 would make sense. But then beyond that, I think someone gets kind of comfortable.
Yep, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, we can skip some of the other stuff in there. I'll be able to expand on that.
Well, so
in other podcasts and stuff like that.
For sure. So let's talk about USPSA Nationals.
Yep.
So you want to make some changes, obviously, to nationals. So what's like, say, the current state, and what changes would you make?
So currently, nationals are broken up into. There's a low cap. So just for 2022, there's a low cap, which is single stack revolver L10 in the spring. There is a carry optics standalone nationals, and then there's a nationals with the other 4 divisions: PCC, Open, Production, and Limited in October. No matter who's voted in, they can't change what's going to happen this year at nationals. They'll have an influence, and they could, depending on when the person is put in place and if there's any contracts or anything signed, they could have input and determine how the 2023 and 2024 nationals are going to be done. But beyond that, nothing can be changed. So I'd like to see a large handgun nationals for all handgun divisions. So that would be all the handgun. And then the biggest criticism I've got on this is from the people that want to shoot more than one division and have a shot at winning the category or class or division winner for multiple divisions.
Right.
And then the other criticism is that it would limit the number of people that were able to participate in the match. So my vision is a 5-day match that would host up to 720 people. There would be a 3-day staff match before that. So you would have staff come in to staff the staff match. And I actually foresee those being competitors in the main match. Okay. So staff shoots over 3 days, 10 stages a day, 10 bays a day, so total of 30 bays over 3 days. The 5-day match would be 6 bays a day, AM, PM flights, 12 people per squad. That gets you really easy turnaround times. You're not rushing. You're not putting a lot of strain on the ROs. It's going to be a long time, so they're going to be out there for 8 days in a row. If they RO or shoot the pre-match and then RO the main match, that'd be 8 days. So that's up to 1,020 people through that match. Currently in 2021, we had 823 unique people. So that match would hold everybody that shot nationals in 2021 and 920 average right around there in 2020. So there was plenty of spots to hold everybody that shot nationals. So that took out all the duplication. Okay. Which was roughly around 200 people.
Yeah, so that sounds definitely doable. Now, here's a logistic question. This may be getting us off topic, but are there ranges large enough to support that many people?
Yeah, so 3 off the top of my head are Cameo in Colorado, US Shooting Academy in Tulsa, and then Universal Shooting Academy in Florida. I haven't done a lot of research into it. I know Paso Park used to be able to stages. They've had a world shoot before. There's got to be more that are around. I've heard South Dakota is building a range that will have 30 bays in it, just based on the funds from was it Pittman Robertson?
Yep.
Yeah, so
that's
South
correct.
Dakota's working on a range for that would be able to host it. That's several years out though. But there's ranges that can host it, and it's not just in Florida. It's in Colorado, Oklahoma, so it's able to be done.
Got it. Okay, good to know. So I guess then when you do hear detractors saying, I want to shoot, 5 different divisions and blah, blah, blah. How many of those people are out there when you look at crossover? So if we're talking about servicing the members, like how many crossover people are we talking about?
I think it's less than 100.
Oh, okay. So there's 100 vocal people.
Shot more than one nationals.
Got
in those
it.
Years.
Got it. Okay. Well, makes sense. So
in XL, it removed about 200 duplicates out for each year. So, and I'm sure some of those shot 3 and 4 nationals.
Oh, okay. Huh. Interesting.
So let's just say 100 right now. I can get deeper in the numbers, but I haven't right now.
No, a swag is totally fine. I don't need you to research it right now or anything. I'm just kind of curious. Well, okay. So then that leaves like PCC, I think 2-gun, if that's still going to be a thing, and then 3-gun nationals. What is, or I guess multi-gun nationals. What is the plan for that?
So plan is host PCC and 2-gun nationals back-to-back format. Number of entries would depend on how long those would be. I've got some people that in PCC that are like, they don't want to shoot stages that actually test a PCC for the platform. They want to shoot PCCs on handgun stages against handguns at handgun distance. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a PCC shooter, so I'll take that input in. And honestly, if you host one large national, you add PCC in there, I think that would only add 100 people or 150 to the unique names.
Okay.
So then you'd still have plenty of slots for everybody that shot all the nationals for all the USPSA divisions in one big match.
Got it. Okay.
And the big match thing, everybody's like 5 days is a lot, but just this past year, back to back, we had a 2-day staff match, a 3-day match, a reset day, 2-day staff, and 3-day match. So that's 11 days. This would only be 8 in this format.
And on that note of the 5 days being long or a long time, there's also people that want to shoot multiple divisions. So then those people are looking at what you said, there was 3 different nationals. So they're looking at 3 different smaller vacations.
There was 4 different in 2021.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like,
and all those were 3 days. So that's 12 days right there.
Yeah, there you go. So 5 days off of work for the average person definitely is a lot. But when you're talking about like a nationals match, like that would truly make it feel like a nationals. When you hear like all the reports of people coming back from World Shoot and stuff like that, and how amazing it is to have all those people there in one place at one time, I think that would truly make it a legit event.
Yep. That's the goal. That's my plan on it. We'll see if there's been good feedback and bad feedback, or positive and negative, I guess, or for and against. So I'm not totally married to it. I think the back-to-back format where you have 3-day match and then you reset and then have another 3-day nationals is probably the most financially sound way to do it for USPSA. And I don't like, nationals should be what it is. And if the members' funds have to pay for it, is what it is. And you could have a one large nationals and have it make sense. But we have to get a budget for that too. We currently, USPSA doesn't have a budget for their nationals matches.
Really? What?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so if the money doesn't go to put on matches, what does the money go toward?
For what?
That's what I'm asking. like
from the matches?
Yeah, well, so from like the proceeds from matches, the proceeds from membership dues, et cetera, et cetera.
So all the entry fees and funds from the matches go back into the matches. It's actually the member dues that make up for the shortfall from the entry fees.
Oh, okay. Got it. And then sponsorships and things like that are...
Yeah, honestly, the sponsorships I think mostly are product donations. I don't know of any companies that actually send cash checks or anything like that at this point. There might still be some, but I don't know of any.
Gotcha. All right. Well, okay. So then moving on, Steel Challenge.
Yep.
I don't know if we've ever talked about that on the show, but...
Ooh, first time.
Yeah.
So Steel Challenge is a very large sport within USPSA. USPSA is an organization that has multi-gun, Steel Challenge, and USPSA competition inside of it.
Pistol competition, right?
USPSA.
Well, USPSA, the Peace Practical. So is multi-gun...
Right, yeah, no, you're right. It's practical. It's not pistol.
Right. So is multi-gun like a separate thing from USPSA then?
No. So USPSA, the org, has 3 main sports underneath it.
Oh, okay.
Or silos or wings of it. And multi-gun, Steel Challenge, and USPSA are those.
Got it. So then Steel Challenge is the only one that started out as a separate organization, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And then that...
Steel Challenge was bought back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, something like
for
that.
Some undisclosed amount. No one knows what that is. USPSA has done really good with it. The organization has expanded it. It's a significant amount of members that participate just in Steel Challenge. It's significant about everything. People buy memberships just for that. So it's a very significant portion of USPSA org.
Yeah. And I say we've never talked about it on the show before, and it's, not for any, it's not like the same reason we don't talk about IDPA, but it's not come up, Steel Challenge is definitely a thing out there, and it's super popular. In fact, the Steel Challenge matches that they hold just over the border from me here in Weld County, Colorado are huge. Like they have a ton of people out there. And it's a really good entry for young people too, right?
It is, yeah. It's really easy. So there's no movement on the stages. It's only movement with the guns, except for one. So, and then most of the time that stage doesn't even get set up. It's probably the least shot stage out there.
Interesting.
So it's easy to get people, and the big thing is rimfire in that game. Rimfire is the #1 division. So, and you don't have to draw from a holster. You could start at the low ready in, I believe, half of the divisions. So just getting into it is much easier, and you don't have to have you don't have to have as much equipment, so you don't have to have holster, mag holders, and all that to get into it. You can just get a gun and 4 or 5 magazines, go out and shoot it. And it could be a PCC, it could be a rimfire pistol, rimfire rifle. None of that's available in the other 2, so that opens it up a bunch to younger people and older people also that aren't able to physically move through a stage or do anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then basically your proposals for them just are allocating slots based on performance, and then
so allocate slots for World Speed Shoot, which is it's like the Nationals, but it's called World Speed Shoot. For that, based on performance in the previous, I guess I should have said not Nationals there, it should have been previous World Speed Shoot. So I found a typo on that. And then area matches and activity within sections. So basically we have an algorithm and procedure and everything in place already on the USPSA website to allocate slots for USPSA Nationals. I say just move that over to World Speed. It's only one match once a year. So you should be able to figure out however many slots you have and allocate those based on the current slot policy. And that's performance at previous World Speed Shoots, area matches, and then activity within the section. So if you have a really active section that shoots a bunch of shooters through Steel Challenge, you would get a certain number of slots based on your activity within that section. So I think the way it's set up now, 50% of the slots go based on performance and 50% of the slots go out to the sections. And that the number of slots is based on how big the match is. So if there's 400 slots, 200 would go to performance, 200 go to sections. Some number of those don't even get used, and they get turned back into the open pool for open registration. With World Speed, I don't actually see that happening. There's enough actually people that want to attend that probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah. I talked to a friend that went as a vendor one year, and he was just blown away by how many freaking people were there and how fast and dedicated everyone was to their craft. So yeah, it sounds like a whole other opportunity that I'm not even paying attention to.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's different than multi-gun or USPSA by a long shot.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's a standard set of stages. The stages don't ever change. You'll see them set up at your local club the same as at World Speed Shoot. Just the care might be taken more to get everything level and everything at World Speed compared to a guy setting up 5 or 6 stages on the weekend.
Yeah.
And they go out and shoot it. So,
yeah.
And then the other thing is move that match towards the end of the year. We have something that's like a season for USPSA, and that most of the nationals are towards the end of the year. So it's like a culmination of events and area matches leading up to that. Everybody practices for that. Then they go perform the best at the biggest match towards the end of the year. So I'd move that towards the end of the year. Got it.
All right. So then the last section here, you saved the best for last. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
Of course. Yes.
is multi-gun. And so there's 3 specific points here because, the nature of the 3-gun show and me specifically and what I shoot most often, because it's all about me. I would like to spend time discussing each one of these, but
sure.
Your first one here is work with match directors and competitors to further develop a common rule set and classification system for multi-gun. And I gotta say, like when I first started the 3-gun show, I really enjoyed how everything was different, going to different matches. Like here, I don't have to wear shoes, and here I have to wear shoes and stuff like that, just as a silly example. But I'm kind of at the point where it's like, you know what, I'm tired of this and I want it all to be the same. I want to fall under one halo. I'm tired of every single match being a world championship and it counting for nothing. and then you move on to the next one. So this is really cool to hear. I'm for some sort of organization. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, the biggest thing is this is probably where I'm least experienced with, but it's something that I've heard people say, and it makes sense to do. It's already under the envelope of USPSA.org. We need to further define it and be actually able to do stuff with it. And I'm not going to create a rule set for multi-gun. I have literally one experience with multi-gun, so I wouldn't have anything to do with it. We need to get the people that actually want to do it in there. So you find people like you that have ideas about divisions and have your pulse, like your finger on the pulse of the multi-gun, have you in there and develop the rule set so it can actually be used and put around. And so you can shoot local match in Kansas City at Mill Creek on the first Saturday, and then you travel for work, and then you're in Wyoming for the third Sunday of the month and shooting the same rule set. You know exactly what you can bring. You know exactly how the stages are going to be set up. You can actually classify on that. So we would have different classification levels. We'd have to create classification stages that test what the multi-gun sport needs testing on. So we wouldn't actually just say, just do L-Pres with a rifle and then do L-Pres with a shotgun, and then that's your classification on it. No, we need to develop a new set of stages that actually test what is needed in multi-gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is a challenge in itself, but I think that's a worthy challenge. I do think it, from my perspective in, the last year, Matt, we did some fantasy 3-gun, and then I was reporting on all the winners of matches and things like that, and some patterns started to emerge. And but the fact that the country is so regionalized, like people generally don't travel more than 8 hours outside of their AO to go to a match. You don't get the people from Texas shooting against the people from Washington, shooting against the people from Florida, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's very little crossover. So it's hard to convince. Well, it's hard to convince a Texan of anything. Trust me, I live there, and that's one of the things I love about the state. But it's hard to convince someone that someone from 2,000 miles away is a better shooter than the local guy that they know at their range. But if there was a classification similar to what there is in USPSA, I think that would be huge for the sport.
Yeah, but I do agree with that, and it's super hard. So there's a standard set of skills that are needed. So so abandoning a long gun in a barrel, that's a skill that's needed for 3-gun, right? Or multi-gun.
Yes.
Okay, so you can build that into stages where you have, just thinking really quick, you have kind of one shooting box that's bigger than a box, but it's like a shooting area, like a 10 by 10 shooting area, and you engage rifle targets at 50 yards on that. And then you abandon your rifle into a barrel and move to another box and engage. You can have handgun targets and engage those at 10 to 20 yards, so 3 targets or something like that. So there's a way to develop it. You just have to figure out what skills need tested the most in that, and then you build other like mandatory reloads on shotguns. You could build that into it and pretty easily test that. So you're basically testing a bunch of manipulation on that. So you could actually create the classification stages around what skill sets need tested.
For sure. And the blueprint in USPSA is already there because you do a lot of that stuff with pistol. Now it's just like, how does that translate over to the rifle? How does that translate over to the shotgun? And so, yeah, it is doable. And even actually for that matter, the way that PCC is run in the classification system already leaves a blueprint for the rifle. So exactly. Yeah, it's definitely doable.
Some of the stages would work. There's one classifier stage where you shoot like 2 targets on the left or one on the left, one on the right, and then one downrange, and do a mandatory reload, and then shoot like 3 other targets, and then you do it reversing also. That's something you could do with a shotgun or a rifle or a pistol also. So there's no reason you can't have a classification system based on that.
Yeah, and it seems like a big omission from how long multi-gun's been in USPSA. It seems like, I guess it's been the redhead stepchild for a long time.
It for sure has. And I think from my perspective outside, that multi-gun has not really wanted it as like a common rule set until fairly recently.
I would agree. And I would also add that I think the attempts to wrangle the matches into like a conglomeration in the past by other organizations were probably done indelicately, if so. And then the other thing is that in the past, a lot of match directors were short-sighted. They sell out every year. Their match was the best thing in the country, and so they weren't willing to come to the table. But in the last couple of years, as 12 gauge ammo, 5.56, 9mm has been more scarce and more expensive, then and those travel dollars have been more scarce and more expensive as well. Then I think participation's down, and people are looking for ways to do that. And I do think the timing is probably right on that to come together.
Yep. I think that's the biggest thing is the people within the multi-gun community actually want it now. So this is the time that USPSA needs to actually get on board, or someone else will.
Yeah.
And then there will be no multi-gun within USPSA. It'll be under something else.
Yeah. And honestly, like that's what it was in 2020, right? Like, was there even a multi-gun nationals in 2020? And then last year it was a 2-gun match.
So there was a multi-gun in 2020.
Oh, my bad.
In Frostproof, I think.
Okay.
2021, there was a multi-gun nationals, which was actually just PCC and pistol.
Yeah. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
So let me just say, like, from a multi-gunner or 3-gunner perspective, that is like a giant FU to us. And like, yeah, we don't want any part of you. And also let me say this as well. when I see like, and this does not include you personally, cause I haven't seen this from you. And you even said that you have very little experience with multi-gun, but when I see like board of directors or, higher ups in USPSA, posting on social media for like their one time that year and saying, oh, busting out the shotgun for the one time every year that I do this. It's like, yeah, okay. Thanks for the pandering. Really love that.
Makes you feel good, right?
Yeah, it sure does. And then, I don't know. It makes us all look like clowns, I think. It's not good for anybody. So I'll say that doesn't seem like a real welcoming environment. So
no,
I will say also that, since you're my sounding board for,
sure.
feedback, the multi-gun environment has not been friendly to 3-gunners in the past. There's been a lot of weird, things where people have been DQ'd for this, that, or the other thing by, either power hungry ROs or people that didn't really understand what long guns are for. But reading the updates that were just passed for the rule book, the multi-gun rule book, it seems like there's steps to mitigate those. So it has me optimistic for the future. Yes,
for sure. That was one of the things that we talked about and voted on and passed were new updates to multi-gun.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the loading tables and changes on that, and then how guns were dealt with, I believe also changed to help ease those from what USPSA multi-gun rules have compared to all the other multi-gun rules.
Mm-hmm.
And those changes, they actually also took out, I believe, the grounding the gun within the 3 feet.
Oh, thank God.
Loophole that was actually exploited pretty heavily in 2020.
Yeah.
Down there, so they took that exploit out or loophole, whatever, however you want to call it.
Yeah, that I think is a good thing. Once again, I don't think that made anyone look good. I don't think it made the organization look good. I don't think it made the competitors look good.
Honestly, that rule wasn't in place for that. It was in case someone that needed to use both hands to get up out of like a prone position or something could set their gun down, get up, and then pick up their gun.
Yeah, it's like an accessibility thing, right?
It's just until it's actually used, you can never really see how it would be done, right?
For sure. Well, and we don't have to sit on that, bygones. But yes, I totally understand, and I do understand the the good intent of the rule, and then the way it was exploited. And again, like I said, I don't think that made either the organization or the competitors look really good in that specific situation. So
it definitely, there's definitely sides on it. And yeah.
I think it's silly.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the last one you have, I'm sorry. Did we kind of glossed over the multi-gun community here? You talked about that for a brief moment. Is there anything else that you want to discuss on that?
With the current people that are on the board, I don't want to speak for them, but I have literally like one experience with multi-gun. I wouldn't want to be creating rules, modifying divisions, anything like that. I'd want to get people that actually are involved with multi-gun on a committee that basically brief the board and say, this is what we think we should do. You guys should vote on this. And then actually they should get member feedback first and then vote on it and then actually pass those changes.
Is that how it's done with steel challenge issues now?
We do have a specific steel challenge person, Zach Jones, that is on he's like steel challenge director. He has but he's specific to steel challenge, and they're looking at creating a committee for that.
Okay. Got it.
There's honestly been hardly any steel challenge changes, except for division changes that mimic the USPSA divisions and just updates that way.
Yeah. Seems like pretty squared away.
Steel challenge pretty stable.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that they want or need to actually be done to it.
Well, three gunners require a lot of care and feeding, just letting you know.
That's fine. No, that's fine. We'll put all our efforts into you guys.
All right. Well, so then the last one, I really like this. Host a Rifle and Shotgun Nationals Championship to qualify teams for IPSC World Shoot. Hallelujah. Holy shit. That is fantastic. When there is a PCC match that's looked as a qualifier for a shotgun match, that also makes us all look silly. And that's,
yes, it does.
that ensures that the best shotgunners are left off the team. And what's obvious to people like me that are paying attention in three gun may not be obvious to people that are picking who goes to nationals, and having some sort of merit to decide that makes me feel much better than it just being like who's got the money and who knows a guy, you know?
Yeah. I think that was, what was the shotgun world shoot the last time that Josh won the world shoot, but wasn't on the team?
Yeah.
Because he didn't shoot enough matches.
Yep.
Because we didn't really have any. And they based it on USPSA multi-gun nationals, which happens once a year. No, I think this is now these nationals would be as big as the attendance would be. So if there's 100 or 150 people that attend them, it's not going to be a 4-day national match.
Sure.
And gonna say I don't have any experience on this either. I'm gonna find someone that has a bunch of experience. I know they've used Kurt Miller in the past to help design rifle and shotgun only matches. He's attended World Shoots and IPSC matches a lot in the past. So, and obviously there's a new group of people that attended the last IPSC shotgun World Shoot and last IPSC rifle World Shoot. So there's people out there that have attended those that we can get to design stages. We have ranges that can accommodate for them. We can't do the crazy, like, shoot at 45 degrees up in the air like they did on that military base.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that surprised even me. Like, I saw the videos and I'm like, holy shit, like, where are they at?
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I don't know that anyone in the U.S. has an area where they can safely practice that. That was pretty odd.
I bet the AMU can, just because they have to have fallout beyond their...
Oh, that's a good point.
But that's probably the only place that you could actually do that in the U.S.
Dang AMU.
On a controlled range.
Yeah, for sure. On a range that people have access to practice on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to throw some caveats there. But, yeah, that was pretty wild, but I totally get you.
Yeah. I think it's an opportunity that USPSA isn't doing right now. We see how popular PCC is. There's no reason we can't do rifle-only matches or shotgun-only matches and develop the rule set beyond just nationals and let people shoot USPSA rifle-only matches and shoot. You can't shoot, obviously, steel at 10 yards with a 223 or 556 round or anything, or even 308 or anything like that.
Right.
But set up stages where, and a rule set where people can have divisions to shoot in, and a common set that they can go around and like shoot here in Kansas City and have a monthly match, and then go to Wyoming and have the same sort of match, or anywhere on the East Coast or anything like that. So there's no reason that shouldn't be in there, and we shouldn't be pushing that. Yeah.
So I totally agree. I love shooting shotgun matches. I like shooting all shotgun matches. The all rifle match is something, especially like the all small rifle match. Now you can go to, long range matches and things like that, but they don't like gas guns there, and or gas guns don't like that format. I haven't quite figured out which yet. But but yeah, there is a hole in the space for that one. And it's America's rifle, Matt. It's America's rifle.
I know. There's no reason we shouldn't be having matches for that. Max Leograndis is doing a pretty good job at that now.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
And I think he's just filling the gap because there was nothing there.
Well, and look at the amount of participation that he's gotten from the air quote like tactical community. There's people that ordinarily wouldn't even shoot a 3-gun match because they don't like the shotgun, or people that wouldn't shoot a USPSA match because they don't like whatever. There's an outlet for it there, right? And if you look around on social media now and on YouTube and things like that, the rifle shooters are there's never been a more popular time to do it. You know, the assault weapons ban sunset 17 years ago now, and it's there. Everybody's got a freaking AR-15 after the last 20 months here, and it's time, dude. Those people, they're going to want something to do, and they're going to want to come shoot a match.
Yep. I mean, the steel is probably the biggest concern there, but if the range has the distance to do it, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to shoot steel also.
Yeah.
But if you have like a 25-yard bay, obviously you're going to have to stick to paper only, which paper only matches aren't a bad thing. It depends on the stage design and the criteria around that. So,
yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like, paper matches are not necessarily a bad thing. And, you know, I've shot AR-15s from contact distance out to 700 yards in matches, and I don't think I've ever encountered a steel target, and maybe I haven't, I'm forgetting about it, but I don't think I've ever encountered a steel target that was at an unsafe distance. And generally when people try to figure out what a safe distance for steel is, they're always like, well, look at the USPSA multi-gun rule book. So, you know, it's one of those, like, if it's safe enough for USPSA, it's safe enough for us kind of thing. And so I don't see that huge of an issue there. And I mean, look at PCCers. Like, PCCers are shooting paper targets up close. The big exception being pepper poppers at 8 yards, but that's not an expectation when you're shooting a 5.56.
Right. I think it's definitely another opportunity that we have is the single, like, shotgun only, single rifle only matches and rule set and developing those.
I agree.
Definitely as the USPSA president, I'll have nationals no matter what.
Yeah.
So we can actually determine who goes to those world events. And is this for 50 people a year that actually want, or every 3 years that want to go to the world shoot? Probably. But I think there'll be more people that actually want to shoot the matches than that.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when you're talking about doing them on the area and the state level. You know, if there's a state carbine match, you're going to get state people that show up that have no interest in going to go shoot internationally, but, you know, shoot, there's a state match down the road. Let's go shoot it, you know?
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think it'd be I have another idea in the back of my head that would, for handgun only or PCC, basically the Steel Challenge divisions and expanding upon that, kind of a blend between Steel Challenge and USPSA. But right now, the time's not right to actually put that out there. There's matches actually on the ground that's doing it right now. So it's getting developed without actually being under the brand, but that's okay for now. We need to concentrate on what we have and get that good, and then we can expand into other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're onto something with the rifle and shotgun nationals. It probably would start out to be just the people that do want to go shoot internationally, but after a few years, I think those matches would fill out for sure.
I think they'd get a couple hundred people, 100, 150 people attend them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's just the 50 people that want to go and then 100 people regionally that want to go try it, I think you could fill up those matches. And is it done over a 2-day span instead of a 3 or 4 day match? Or a day and a half, depending on how many people? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and
we could easily make that financially make sense to the organization. There's no reason we can't do that.
Definitely. Yeah, and there's just thinking out loud and spitballing. There's even opportunities to partnership with current matches that are already on the ground and put them under the USPSA halo, and then those become feeders to nationals. So there's all kinds of opportunities out there. So I think that, a lot of times when we talk about an organization like a national organization for three gun, we think of the I don't know, like a lot of three gunners. It's like trying to stuff a cat in a box. They fight real hard, and I understand that because I've been there before too. But I see more good than bad on it, and I think there's opportunities to show off the best shooters, showcase the best shooters, come together, and then your voices are heard more loudly when you're standing next to each other, and then uniting the pistol shooters in USPSA, the steel challenge shooters in steel challenge, and then the multi-gunners in USPSA all together creates a larger organization. And when you have that many people, man, we can really change like the landscape of the U.S. And I know that's not like a mission of USPSA, but
it's actually as part of the 501c3. It's something I think that's technically able to be done, but they just choose not to do it right now, just because the ramifications, if they look into that, just might not be worth it.
Keeping their heads down for the last 35 years.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't fault them for that. Like they're doing I don't know. I understand. Whatever. I don't want to judge, but I just think that all those competition shooters united together can do a lot more. And USPSA is the largest shooting competition organization in the United States. Why not? Why not do it? Why not see if we can all push it forward?
It's able to be done. We've all been briefed on that. It's just not probably the best right now. Yeah. But if we had, if we had more members, I'm not going to put a number out there just because I get crucified about it. But if we had more members and more people participating, like it does make sense at some point for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And an active organization that actually goes out and shoots rather than, buying wine and pocket knives, it could be bigger than the NRA. So, and that's honestly what the 2A needs is people that are active shooters and actually go out there and do stuff. So, and I mean active shooters in the best sense. Well,
active people shooting, not active shooters.
There you go. Active individuals shooting in the shooting sports. Yes, there we go. Well, Matt, man, so I guess I'm not finding a whole lot of faults in what you have here. It seems like a lot of this stuff is no-brainer type stuff that seems to be, why is the organization not doing that now? So what's the plan for running your campaign?
So voting you have to be a USPSA member to vote as of May something, I believe. There's details out there. So you have to be an active USPSA member with a current membership. The voting will start on May 2nd or May 1st of this year. You'll get a ballot in the mail with a URL to go to online, or you can go through the USPSA website, log into your account, and go vote electronically. There are going to be more than 2 people on the ballot. And then a winner has to get more than 50% of the vote, 50% plus 1 vote to be declared the winner. So it's highly likely that it'll go into a runoff election, which the runoff election will be from August 1st to the end of like September 1st, something like that. So they probably won't have a new USPSA president until September. That could change. Some people might drop out. I don't know. Some people might actually join it. Not real sure. But you have to be a current USPSA member. You'll be able to get on and vote on the USPSA website. That happens around May 1st. I'll send Dave some info more detailed on stuff like that, and he can post it up. Get out to all your social media people if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I am going to be Matt, with your permission here, I'm just going to put your platform in the show notes of this show on 3gunshow.com so people can go and read it themselves if if you're driving and you didn't quite hear something. Let me throw something out there.
Sure.
In the event of a runoff election, what about a shoot-off?
Shoot-off? Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah? Best man wins?
That'd be interesting. It'd be interesting.
Saying for this type of organization, something like that could work.
Yeah. I've heard there's some people that are going to do debates on this and get all the candidates that want to come on and do a debate. That's never been done before, so
interesting.
That could be interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, well, if there's someone else out there that's running and wants to be on the 3 Gun Show, we're happy to have you. Matt is just the first person that came on my radar, and I really like what Matt had to say in his platform here. So, Matt, man, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about the the USPSA organization, the current state, what you envisioned as a members first organization going forward. And thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, man.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks again.